Hello, and welcome back to For Book's Sake. I am Heather Roberts.
I am Veronica Adams, and we are 1852 Media, joined today by...
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Becky. I'm like, wait, what are we doing? I am Becky, and I am one of the hosts of the Buzzing About Romance podcast and owner of Bookcase Media.
Yeah, I was going to say, while this is the first time we've actually ever had a guest on our podcast, Becky is no stranger to podcasts at all.
Oh, yes. I love it. I've been doing it for 4 years.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, has it been 4 already?
Yeah, we started June of 2020.
That is wild.
We have 222 Sunday episodes.
Amazing.
And then if you include like our quick shot reviews and our weekend or our Wednesday episodes, I think at last count we were over 800.
That's incredible.
That's so many.
It's so
our little podcast over here pales in comparison to that,
but you guys are doing great because the average podcast typically only lasts 8 to 10 episodes.
Oh, well then we're well into that.
So,
yeah, we're on season 2, baby. This is our second year of this. First full year.
Right. Yeah. No, we're still in the we're not worthy phase when it comes to Becky and her work, but look at us. We've had staying power.
Podcasting is fun. It's such a fun media.
Yeah, it really is. And it gives us a chance to explore different topics. And it's always interesting to see what people are going to actually respond to.
Yeah.
I think our best ever, well, we have a few top performers. One is Ellie Conway Taylor Swift, that one. But that's just because it's Taylor Swift. So, I mean, obviously.
Right.
Mother. And then we also have the Crave lawsuit, high performer. And then the disaster signing of 2024, which we all know to be Reader's State Denver. So,
yeah. It's so funny the episodes people respond to.
Yes.
We do author interviews, we do book reviews, but the episodes people love is when we break down a trope, and sometimes we flip it on its head.
Yeah.
But we always give you a list of books. And I started my podcast because really my poor spouse was tired of listening to me try to break down books with him. He was like, "Oh, this is great. You should have a podcast." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a great idea." And then later on,
just a little nudge, like, "I've just had my fill, honey. Please talk to someone else about your books."
I think it was Ruby Dixon.
Oh my God.
Blue Aliens and Vibrating.
Yep.
Yes. When the Ice Planet Barbarians went viral on TikTok for the first time.
Was actually, so I started reading that in 2018 when it first started making.
Before they were really, really big.
Yeah. And I think that he kind of was like, "Friend, I love you."
I love you, but we don't need to talk about this.
We can't do this anymore.
That's so funny.
He's a good sport, though. He totally supports this. But he's grateful I have new friends that want to talk about books.
Fair enough.
Love the support. Yes, for sure. Speaking of new things, we are super excited to share that 1852 Media is opening up a new department, a new arm of the business, as it were. And we are opening an agency. So we are going to be accepting queries from authors and all of that good jazz, and selling subsidiary rights and front list rights and the whole shebang, depending upon, what's available, obviously, and what the catalog looks like. So we're really excited about this. Veronica and I are bringing our legal knowledge once again to the forefront.
Yes, maybe not so much in the digesting cases to make them palatable and or more scandalous for listeners, but to definitely put on those legal hats and use them for the benefit of authors who would like to avail themselves of that kind of thing. So
and Becky is going to be acting as our acquisitions manager, acquisitions editor. I'm not sure official title, what she prefers, but acquisitions is going to be Becky.
Yes.
And we're really excited about this. But I mean, I always look at this as, this is just another aspect, I guess I should say, of wanting to help authors, right? Like be in their best interest, because something that we've seen, and Becky, I'm sure you've seen this as well, is, a lot of times when people come in to our, PR marketing help and whatnot, they one of the reasons is they're trying to get their books out there, right? Get outreach. And they're doing the best they can on their own. But when it comes to subsidiary rights specifically, they don't have, the time or energy or effort to go and make those deals themselves, or they might try to find an agent. They might try to work a deal themselves. But it often gets pushed on the back burner, right? Like something that they want to do, but haven't had the opportunity to or time to. And if you have those other streams of income coming in, those other deals, getting your books in foreign translations, for example, that's a great steady stream of income for a lot of authors for coming in that you could be having if, you had this opportunity. So we're really excited to be able to step into that role and provide opportunities for authors to provide those streams of income.
Yeah. Well, and we all know the market in romance right now is a little saturated. There's so many authors and so many book releasing. But just because we feel saturated, there are other markets aren't.
Right.
So there is so much movement in the foreign rights. I also think it's not so much that authors don't have time. I also think that there are a lot of newer on the scene authors that are independently publishing, so they don't necessarily know the value of the foreign rights and the agents and stuff like that, or understand how it works. That I always use the analogy that if we look at a book as a pencil bag, and inside are all of our pens and pencils, but those pens and pencils are all the subsidiary rights. And some authors don't realize that you don't have to sell the whole pencil bag.
Right.
We can just sell the audiobook rights, the paperback rights, the Brazilian Portuguese rights, or the German rights. And so I think that there's some just lesser known, that authors don't realize that, because a lot of people like being an indie author.
Oh, yeah.
They love that control, but getting an agent and selling your rights does not mean that you are giving up that control. You're only selling one pencil out of your pencil bag, not the whole set.
And maybe it's the pencil that would give you the biggest headache to take care of and self-produce as an indie, right? Like to manage translations, my goodness, right? Like you have to interview and book a translator, right? And then you need, does the translator offer full service, or is this just one individual who's going to literally translate your manuscript, and then you need to find editing and proofreading in the same language that you're having the book translated into, right? I mean, there's just so many pieces of the puzzle. Exactly, right? Like is your English cover marketable in Italy or France, right? Or do you need to change the look? Do you need a new cover designer and all of that stuff? So yeah. One pencil, but in many, many pieces, right?
Right.
Authors who maybe don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And it's nice
would
to
otherwise leave that money on the table. Yeah.
But it's nice to have someone that you can talk to that is looking out for your interests.
Yeah.
But they're not like doing it, with the intent of using you either.
Right.
Like, that's the biggest thing. There's a lot of, there's choices of agents out there, right? And we at 1852 Media have always tried to, at least we've tried to, hopefully we have done, is made our clients feel like they are our only client, that we are providing them with the best possible service, and that we care about their needs, because we do care about their needs, and we care about their careers. I mean, at its core, 1852 Media started as and is a sort of business management firm for authors specifically. We provide marketing services, absolutely, but we also help you with your business. Where are you publishing? What are you publishing? What are your profits? What are your losses? Why does this happen? Why does that happen? How can we improve your ROI? And so this is sort of a natural progression of that into, let's look at those streams of income and figure out if we can expand upon it, because it is in your best interest to get your books in the hands of as many readers as possible. And if it's not in the American market, that's, let's look at other markets,
Absolutely.
And if it's not going to be cost prohibitive for you to do it, then why aren't you doing it?
Right.
You know, it seems silly not to.
Right.
Right.
So, and in fact, you could get money and get paid to do it. You could get an advance.
That's so important, right? Like it goes back
Right.
to your original point, Heather, diversifying the streams of income too, right? Because I mean, I would hate to have all of my eggs in an Amazon basket, you
Right.
know? Even if I'm doing very well, even if the numbers make me happy, even if I feel like as an indie author, I've been commercially successful or have been successful through other measurements that are important to me, you know, having money coming in from your creative endeavors from multiple places is never a bad thing, ever.
No, because let's be honest, Amazon can change their mind about anything any day
Well,
of the week.
any
And
retailer can, right?
yeah,
So
the
that's
terms of
maybe a
service.
chat for a direct sales episode instead, though.
Oh my God, for real.
10 out of 10 encourage that. There's
Yeah,
also, there are things, like you said, that are cost prohibitive. And I think one of the biggest things that a lot of authors find as a stumbler is the audiobook rights, right?
100%. Yeah,
But there are publishers specifically for audiobooks.
yeah,
And if you aren't doing great and can't produce, because who has, a couple $1,000s per hour for your
Yeah.
audiobook?
Yeah.
That, selling the audiobook rights is,
active. Yeah,
and then it gets in libraries. Even if you are like an exclusive Amazon author, those audiobook rights will get into libraries and Hoopla and Spotify because that publisher has those distributions.
and I really feel like audiobooks specifically are getting a lot more attention these days than they ever have before. If there's one sort of subsidiary right, I mean, foreign translations for sure, but audiobooks in the US marketplace specifically have gotten a lot more traction. There's a lot more listeners now who are absorbing their media, audio through audio,
Yeah.
which is why podcasts have been on the rise, and all sorts of different storytelling through audio has increased substantially. People like to listen to something other than music when they're doing housework or walking their dog or whatever, exercising. Um, and I think we lost Veronica,
Yeah.
but she'll come back. It's fine. But yeah, I think that that's a new way of people reading books specifically, and a way that we can increase value.
Well, and I think technology has allowed things like audiobooks to become more accessible, right? Like,
Right.
I don't have to carry around 24 CDs with me and a player and put them in the
That's
right
right.
order. Like, things like smartphones and technology and streaming services have really allowed some accessibility for audiobooks that wasn't there
Yeah.
7, 8 years ago.
Veronica just messaged me that her power went out.
Oh no. Oh
She
no.
said she'll be back as soon as she can. It's always something, right?
It's never easy.
Always a Monday. But yes, to your point, I mean, I used to carry around CDs, like an entire case of freaking CDs with me everywhere I went. And then, like, remember, you'd master the ability to change the CD with your knees in the car. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, I
Um,
remember like friends that would get like the 12 disc player in their trunk
yeah.
and, like to try to change the music or, change it was this whole endeavor.
Yeah.
Um, so really, like,
Now it's like touch. There we go.
yeah, I just,
And yeah, I use Google. I don't know. My son loves Spotify. He's a Spotify stan. I pay for Google subscriptions anyway, so I get the music as part of it. And why
yeah.
would I use something I'm not? Why would I buy something when I already have something that works? Um, and I love it. It's great. I mean, you just press. My favorite is like the Spotify feature, right? But Google does it instead, where you just play a song and then it picks whatever song after
Yeah.
that it thinks you'll like.
Like the radio
And
channels, but I was a radio kid, but I
yeah,
was actually a talk radio kid. So I love podcasts. I
oh yeah,
mean, it, my parents were huge NPR listeners, car talks on Saturday. Like I can remember Saturdays, like going to the grocery store and we listened to car talk on the way to the grocery store. And my dad was always like, you have to absorb this. You might need this knowledge. I'm going to tell you people, I absorbed nothing.
I believe you.
But
Absolutely nothing.
sports radio, news, stuff like that's always really interesting to me. So that I think that, podcasting and going into a talk situation
Yeah.
was, kind of obvious for me.
For sure. And there's just such a larger audience for it now, too. Oh, Veronica has returned to us.
She's returned.
It's the darndest thing. My power has never ever blinked like that before, but all of a sudden I was here and then I wasn't.
It's Monday.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. It's Monday.
It's a Monday. But yeah, so this is what we're doing. We're super excited to be moving into this new venture with all of your subsidiary rights. And if you're interested in querying us, you can head to our website, 1852media.com/query and submit. And we will, take a look at it and see what we can do. So
we are excited to see what you've got.
Exactly. We're excited to start this. It just, when I told a couple people that I was doing this, they were like, why haven't you done this before?
Right?
I believe
it's like
that
the
was
number
my
one
question.
response. Yes.
Yes.
That was your reaction, right, Becky? Like, why haven't you done it yet?
Well, because we were talking about a variety of different things that have come up on the radar.
Yeah.
And I said, it's been in the back of my head for about 18 months. Like, because I left my position at Harlequin in May of 2022. No, 2023. So I left my position. It was a contract position. And I have been thinking, everyone's like, this market, so much nuance about this market. Yeah. Why aren't you at an agency? Well, I live in the middle of Ohio. There are not literary agencies. But there are people
open one.
Right. Well, and that's everyone's like, you just open one. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't have the law degree. I don't have, Bachelor of Fine Arts only goes so far. So, we were talking about something and I said, Heather, I don't understand why you don't have an agency.
And I was like, well, I have, I don't have all of that, the contacts for selling, right? Yeah. And I don't also have the time to be able to dedicate to that aspect. And Becky was just like, well, I have that.
Yeah.
So it was the
collaboration was born.
Collaboration. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was perfect. And obviously Veronica, being obviously involved in this as well. Yep. We had sort of talked about it previously, but just hadn't done anything about it because of the,
Right. Like in our brainstorming sessions, we've batted around this idea or some version very close to it for a very long time, but acting on it just seemed sort of
not the right time.
Beyond the bandwidth we've always had with everything else we've been working on, right? So with Becky's collaboration, it's just sort of right place, right time for all three of us now, I think.
Yeah.
I think so.
So
yeah, we're excited to bring all of the publishing knowledge and experience and marketing knowledge and experience that we have. Because that's a big part of it. Understanding the marketing of the industry, understanding what the publishers want, what is doing well right now.
Right.
What are the trends? Having our pulse, our finger on the pulse of the industry is just so important. And we already have that, in spades. So,
well, and in knowing where the market's going to go, because a lot of times you can be selling a book that isn't going to see the light of day.
Yeah.
For 12 months. So,
exactly.
What are we seeing being bought? What are we seeing pushed out? Did we ever think 2 years ago that hockey would rule the world for 18 months of romance novels?
I mean, It cracks me up because hockey's always been popular, right? Like, because I know this because I've represented a lot of hockey authors. And so hockey has always been this sort of evergreen trope that has been popular, but I didn't expect it to blow up in the way that it did.
And to be the top of the contemporary charts in a lot of cases.
Right.
Consistently.
Yeah.
And it's nice that it's I think always going to be an evergreen trope. And that it's getting sort of the light on it that it deserves for once, because it's a great trope. having the hockey players, there's so much, flexibility with that. The teams, the family sagas, it's great. It
Yeah.
lends itself to so many different storylines. And there's all different. So what I don't know if a lot of hockey readers know this. Sorry, I'm just going to be on a hockey romance soapbox. But there's so many different variations of hockey romance, right? Like there's hockey adjacent romance where, there's just hockey sort of in the background.
Right.
Well, I always say that about the small town ones where the hockey player goes back to the small town.
Yeah.
Those are not hockey romance.
No.
Those are hockey adjacent.
They're hockey adjacent, where like the hero happens to be a hockey player, but there's absolutely no hockey in the book. Those are hockey adjacent. But then there's also hockey books where it's like hockey is another character in the book.
The teams are prevalent, and there's competition, and you see the sport being played on the page.
Right. And then in there's all different heat levels that you can find, and different tropes and storylines, different other like small town, like Becky noted, why choose, dark romance. There's so many different variations of what authors have taken hockey and spun it off into.
For sure.
Which is amazing to see. So you can find any of that, which you like. It's just so funny to me because when I hear people say like, I can't find, what I want to read. And I'm like, are you looking hard enough? Like, what are you searching for? Because I guarantee it probably exists, or variation exists.
100% it exists. Because,
with the level of saturation that the market has right now, it probably exists somehow.
I also think that, and this is just something too that I'm excited about as we go into agency and stuff like that, is there are some backlists that have been indie published and out for a while, but they're not getting across the board the notoriety that they should.
Yep.
100%.
And so I do think that, when you sell an audiobook for a book that you wrote 4 years ago, now you have the chance to create some rejuvenation and some, new life. You're breathing that new life into this really quality backlist title that you've had for several weeks or years.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, there's so many authors with incredible backlists that don't get the attention that they deserve. And the authors, to be an indie author these days, you often have to be a successful one. You often have to publish, every 6 to 8 weeks at the outset in order to keep that algorithming. Sometimes even faster than that.
Yeah.
And, once the new release falls off a cliff and is now a backlist title, a lot of times they forget about their backlist. It just sort of provides some additional income whenever they have a new release. But if you can do more with that, right, then that's the whole thing. That's what we're trying to help people with. How can you do more with that and leverage your backlist into something that's profitable to you?
So getting an agent isn't necessarily for the new on the scene author. It can also be for the author with a long backlist that hasn't done these things with it, that they're just writing and, releasing stateside and, Canadian market. And there's worldwide marketing, but in English. So now you have this opportunity to say to your backlist, hey, I think you should check out, an Italian translation or a Hungarian translation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Brazil's popping off right now. Italy, German.
Germany has been a very, very popular destination for translations for a while now from the English
Croatia
market.
is actually a new heavy breeding market for translations. Like
fascinating to me.
Yeah.
They want the books. It's really interesting too to talk to foreign readers though. Many of them that are devout romance readers prefer to read in English and read in English, but they're always excited when they find their favorite book in their native language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I found my favorite book in Dutch. Like this is exciting.
Yeah. India too, I feel like would be an amazing, market to get into. They have high drama all the time in their entertainment. So a high drama story is going to do very well there. You think about with Bollywood and all of the stories that come out of there.
Yeah.
As I also think with Korea, with South Korea and the Korean dramas and all that, I love Korean dramas. I actually have to stop. I can't watch them now because I get too engrossed.
So funny.
And it's like I get so sucked in. So unless I have a large swath of time, like I will not even start. I won't start
That's
one.
so funny. I've not dabbled into that. But the thing that's really interesting to me is the turning of your work, your novel, into a graphic novel.
Yes.
Which is a newer trend because a lot of newer, younger readers love the graphic novel.
Yes.
So could you imagine taking one of your premier titles that you have and actually, that's a subright, that's a subsidiary, right? Is the graphic novel, and you can turn your book into a graphic novel. Could you
Yes.
imagine? Like,
It's so cool.
would be so cool.
And games. I mean, they're turning them books into games now as
Mhm.
well, which is just so neat to think about. And
Yeah. It's so much more than people realize. Like, it's
Yeah.
TV, it's film, it's
Mhm.
games, it's graphic novels,
Yeah.
it's audiobooks, and then every foreign language you can imagine.
It's really cool. So we are super excited to start on this journey, and we hope that you come along with us. And obviously, Veronica and I will still be here
Yes.
on For Book's Sake every week talking about things.
Electricity
And
willing.
yes, electricity willing. It's always something, right? It is. We are
It's a
recording this
perfectly
on
calm
Monday.
Monday morning here. Like there's nothing happening in my neighborhood, and it just
It was probably like a squirrel. At least it like popped right back on, right?
yeah.
We've had a couple issues where a squirrel takes out the grid and it's like 8 hours later.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. Well, thank you, Becky, for joining us
Sure.
today. And next time, we'll pick another legal case and
Yes.
dive into that. We're giving
Yeah.
ourselves a little bit of a break for legal cases.
We will see you with our lawyer hats on again very, very soon.
Yes. Until then, this has been For Book's Sake.